if you are not intentionally manifesting and living your life with intentionality, you will become an accidental part of other people's manifestations. What if that was divine timing? What if it was divine because it was perfect? Because you were the person you needed to be at that moment in time for everything to work out exactly as it did. Hello everybody, my name is Lucy Sue Fox and this is my podcast. Welcome to the next episode. So in this episode, I want to dive into a concept called quantum leaping. Now, this has got a lot of attention on the internet. Everyone on Instagram is all about how to make that big fancy quantum leap. Now, if for some reason you're listening to this episode and you haven't listened to episode 5, all about becoming a 6-figure seeker, I want you to know there's so many lessons you could take from that, whether it's about money, body, business, or relationships that would apply to what I'm also going to share with you today. In general, the concept of a quantum leap is that you go from A to Z in an area of your life. So whether that is you go from someone earning 2K a month to 20K a month, you go from, a career that you hate to a career that you love, you go from single and struggling to a married and committed relationship. The concept of a quantum leap is that you are jumping a big way and making big changes. But I wanted to share with you some interesting insights and thoughts that I have had and I've collected over the years of study, both in terms of manifestation, in terms of healing and personal development, in terms of trauma, but also in terms of what I have experienced personally when I have quantum leaped in life. And I wanted to give you those insights and wisdom today in this episode. So one of the things I think people think about with quantum leaping is they imagine a forward jump. So you imagine like long jump at school. I hope you did long jump. What do they call that in America? Do they call that the same thing? So if you're here, so you're at point A and then you've got the jump and that's here. And at point B, there's going to be this miraculous, amazing experience. So you want to quantum leap from point A to, let's say, point M, okay? So point M on the other side of the jump. And a lot of people believe it's forward motion. So we believe I'm going from point A to point M, and that is a big forward jump, and that's a quantum leap. But what about, hear me out, what about if it was a sidestep instead? What about for every single current version of your life, what if there were 9 other versions? Potentially all happening at the same time, or potentially could happen. So not to say you're living 10 lives at once, but let's say there were 10 potentialities for every single decision that you made, or every single move that you made. And that instead of quantum leaping being a forward step, what if it was a side step? So get a piece of paper out. I want you to draw 10 lanes like a bowling alley. So you've got lane 1 and you've got lane 10. Now that's not to say that lane 10 is better than lane 1, but for the purpose of this example, maybe that's the case. And you're bowling and playing life in lane 1. And then what about if rather than making forward motion, so knocking down the skittles and that being the quantum leap, what about if you just changed lanes? What about if you made a decision or had a revelation or an aha moment or an experience that moved you sideways and meant you started living life in a different lane? The reason a lot of people make quantum change or have quantum leaps when it comes to health, well-being, wealth, the way they approach life, kindness, when something happens to them, so heartbreak, disease, death, bereavement, grief, is simply because they had a moment of clarity that allowed them to think, feel, and then shift into a different way of being. But that wasn't always a forward step. It wasn't always like a spring back of a bungee and then a release. It was just one side step. A decision that I was no longer going to be unhealthy. A decision that I was no longer going to work at that stressful job. A decision to leave that abusive marriage. Maybe it wasn't always about a forward leap. Maybe it was about a sidestep that allowed you to play in a different lane and create different results. The truth is, the version of you that let's say is, and we'll use money, fuck it. Let's say in lane 1 you're earning 2K a month and in lane 10 you're earning 20K a month, we're 10xing. There's a version of you that's living that could live that life. That's possible. Or you wouldn't desire it. You wouldn't be wanting it for yourself unless you actually believed it was possible, or it was part of something that you were incredibly curious about and had desire about. Or you wouldn't even conceptualize it. There are lots of people that will watch this podcast and think, I want to do a podcast. Or they think, oh, that'd be curious, that'd be fun. Or where's she at? She's in a studio, there's cameras. But there's a lot of people that will watch this and go, oh, that was interesting. And there are a lot of people that watch this and go, oof, not for me. Not everybody has the same desires. Not everybody has the same things that make them curious or excited. So if there is an area in life that you are curious about and excited about, but it feels far from reach, just know quantum leaping isn't about making necessarily massive moves, massive plays, or massive decisions. It's simply about making that sidestep. And this example, when I've shared this with clients recently, has allowed them to feel like their dreams and goals are so much closer than they realized. When we recognize it's about playing in a different lane, playing a slightly different version of us, and then we play her, we make a marginal gain, and then we play the next version of us and we move lanes again, play the next version of us, and we keep moving lanes, rather than this concept of having to make this massive leap and jump that probably would exhaust your nervous system. You'd get there and feel nothing. And truthfully, you might not be the person you need to be yet. Whereas when we think of it as like switching lanes in a bowling alley and moving, maybe it's 2 lanes at a time, maybe it's 3 lanes at a time, and we're willing to move as who we are, how we think, how we feel, how we vibrate. As we move through those lanes, we create and live a different life. What if that is what quantum leaping actually was? Wouldn't that change a lot for you? So one more thing I want to touch on is divine timing and the concept of divine timing. A lot of us give our power away to an unknown. And actually, I don't know if anyone, it's kind of festive season, and I'm a big fan of the film Miracle on 34th Street. I think it's a very deeply emotive film and I love it. And spoiler alert, if you haven't seen it, at the end, the girl who plays Matilda, what is the actress's name? I'm sure you'll all be commenting underneath telling me. But she presents the judge with a $1 bill. And I have a $1 bill on my desk, just from my last trip because I love foreign currency. And it says on the back, "In God we trust." Now, whether or not you believe in a God or a deity as such, or whether or not you believe in the universe or a greater power, and the truth is, you probably do believe in something, or you wouldn't be listening to my podcast, because I would not be resonating with you as someone that does believe in energy and does believe in the law of attraction and does believe in something greater. But when I looked at that this morning, it reminded me that often we trust, but sometimes we give too much of our power away. Sometimes what we do is when we don't know what to do or things are hard, we give away all our power and decide that God or the universe will decide it for us. But I have said 100 times before, if you are not intentionally manifesting and living your life with intentionality, you will become an accidental part of other people's manifestations. If you are not decisively changing lanes and deciding the lane that you are living life in, you will become pulled and blurred into other people's lanes and other people's lives. So when you are looking at your life and things aren't happening on your timeline and you want to say it's divine timing, I agree. But don't make that timing someone else's responsibility to sort, to fix, to change. And instead maybe think about divine timing like this. What if divine timing was simply when lane 10 version of you finally met lane 1 version of you and they had a conversation? What if divine timing was about when all the lessons and the growth and the healing and the experience and the knowledge and the wisdom and the aha moments built up and the momentum rolled and you rolled 10 lanes and you stepped into lane 10? What if that was divine timing? What if it was divine because it was perfect? Because you were the person you needed to be at that moment in time for everything to work out exactly as it did? What if that was divine timing? Don't give your power away to anything outside of you. Know that when you are living life in your lane and you are moving with that intentionality around your identity, around your systems and structures, around energetics, the 3 things I've talked about a lot in previous episodes, when you're moving with that intentionality and purpose, I promise you that quantum leaping is not only possible, not only probable, it's inevitable. And that divine timing will simply be the moment where you get to meet yourself and realize it was absolutely freaking worth it. If you are ready to make those quantum leaps, don't forget to join me inside the Growth Masterclass. Go to lucysuperfox.com/growth and I'll put the link in the show notes below. And I'll see you on the next episode.